Getting back to the free coffee and heart cross-stitch pattern, and I think this was taken off the BMC website. I'm trying to remember, it's been so long. But I know that as I was working on it, I forgot to mention, and you know, my back always looks really bad. And inevitably, I realize after I've already done it is I've traveled places I didn't mean to travel on the back. I think I showed you how to end a thread, but I don't think I showed you how to begin the next one. And you know, there are so many videos on YouTube that it probably didn't matter. You either already know, or by now you've gave up on me and watched other videos. Hang on to the needle, not the needle threader. I have something in my mind about what I want to do and how I want to finish it when I frame it. So hopefully it'll work out for me. But something that you can think about when you're doing a project. And we know from looking at this, probably from before when I was measuring to begin with, but we know that there is 10 by 10 in these little tiny little cross stitch squares inside of an inch. So then we know there's 10, 20, 30, 40, 44 stitches going this direction. And there are 10, 20, 30, 40, 1, 2, 3, 43 stitches going this direction. When you are so close like this, it doesn't really matter. But there were a couple of options, and if I thought about it ahead of time, I could have just did this and eliminated it, and then they'd been both exactly 43 by 43 stitches. And that was here. I think I could have taken out this stitch, and it still would have given me this look right here, minus one of these stitches. Something else you could do, if you wanted to, you could move the heart this direction to the left, one square. So instead of starting here, you could start here, and there would be 2 square gaps here. I've considered tearing this out and coming back down and just eliminating one of these, but I didn't want to go back in here because I don't know where I stopped and started my thread. But I've got my brown started here, and I'm going to flip this over. I don't know what happened with the upload into iShot from my video import. Anyway, it just somehow slowed down immensely. I don't know what happened. The first part was fine, and then about the time I started to move into finishing this up, it went into slow motion. I tried speeding it up, and it just was chaos after that. It was a nightmare trying to edit that and to keep it in line and keep the focus and anyway. So I just deleted it, and it is what it is. I took the lighter brown and I finished up where it needed to be placed on the project. When you finish off a thread, you go underneath the threads on the back to hold the thread in place. When you start, you just go under some more threads if you can. When you start another color or another section, you know, if you're close to another place, like here with this red, I just started over here and then moved over into starting about here on the red. The reason why is it was just a very short travel. I mean, like one stitch. It wasn't like I was traveling from here to start. If you were traveling from there to there to start, you would have to start like you did any place when you first start a project. Irregardless, it is finished, and it needs to be ironed, and I will do that. My self-stick mounting board, Most craft stores have them. I would say Joann's carries them, but they're pricey. If you go to Hobby Lobby, they're less expensive. You will find definitely not the same brands in Hobby Lobby. And they may all be fine. I don't know. I will put a link for this in the description below, but I got it off of Amazon. And because this turns out to be, I mean, I could have gone to a 4x4 frame. I found a 4x4 frame at the dollar store. This one. And I was going to actually just paint. I bought 3 paints from Walmart that I thought, were pretty close in color. I mean, this one's a little darker, but I could have added white to this to make it a little bit lighter to match it better. And then I bought a red because in my mind I thought, well, I'm going to paint this the light brown or the dark brown, and then I would dry brush the other 2 on there. Part of my thought process was I wanted to incorporate this red, but I didn't like the way the frame went right up next to the project, and it would have fit probably just fine. I just didn't like it, I guess I want to say. So I eliminated that. I may use it on another project at some point. And then this frame I got off of Amazon, which I love. It turned out to be much prettier than I thought it would be. I was just looking for an inexpensive square frame because I figured this would look great in a square frame. And I really wanted a matte. And I'm going to show you what I want to do with that in a minute. But this frame is much nicer really than I thought it would be. As I was saying, I was very happy with the frame. Very happy with the frame. Unfortunately, this is acrylic. It's not glass. I wasn't particularly happy about that. You can always find a cheap, 6-inch frame at like a thrift store and then just take the glass out if you want to. I may do that later on down the road if it's really bugging me that bad. Looks like it's embossed flowers. Really pretty, actually. And this side is just plain. So it doesn't really matter which side you are going to use when I show you what I'm going to do with it. Also, this is pretty deep, so I'm hoping that this thick board will fit in there okay and still be able to use this back. If not, I may have to tape it or use some tacks. I really didn't want to do that. And I'll put a link to this frame too down below. I got it, like I said, from Amazon. I went to every store, every craft store, Joann's, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, trying to find a coffee-themed scrapbook paper. Now, I could have ordered some off of Amazon, but I'd had to get an entire pack, and I didn't want to do that. So I thought, well, I'm going to go onto Canva and create my own design using their seamless patterns. I changed the colors to kind of match what I thought would look best with this particular project. And I wanted to add the red in. And of course, when you're printing it out, the red never looks quite like it does on the computer screen, but it's close enough for me. I don't really care. I mean, I could print it out again if I wanted to. I went into my stash, but I printed it on white paper first because I wanted to see how it printed. And you can see that some of the edges, it doesn't print all the way to the edge, but that's okay. I think, again, because of this, you have a little bit of a lip here, so I wasn't too worried about that being covered up. And I wanted to use at least one of these edges as a straight edge. I first printed it on the brown paper, which I didn't have something quite that dark, but I was okay with that. It gave a little bit of the variance, I think, of the brown. But I didn't like how it looked, I guess I want to say, with the frame. And you can do some playing around to find it. And that may have been just fine for you. But this particular print, and I could have tried to get it smaller, more tiny coffee cups, because they actually match in a way. If you look, They're pretty close. I thought about printing it on red, but I didn't like the red matting. So I finally found this color of brown in my stash, which doesn't match really anything, but because I was looking to find something closer to this brown, but I couldn't, and so this is fine. I like this pattern more because of being able again to change the colors, and I can make the little hearts red to kind of match the color of this red. And then this brown is a dark brown, pretty close to that. My dog's snoring, so if you can hear that, I'm sorry, Lucy snores. Anyway, so I thought that that would look cute together with a mat. And so my goal was, again, get things in my head, kind of like that hanging dish towel with the pot holder on, making it your own. I always try to do that because I just can't be happy, I think, with whatever I can just find that's already made. But anyway, it is what it is. What I want to do here is I want to make sure that I get some of these reds in, and I know it might be hit and miss because this is so narrow. I think it's like a 1/16 of an inch smaller than 1 inch for the mat, but I'm just going to lay it someplace where I think maybe I'll get some of those reds that show up, and then I'm going to line it up as a straight edge against one of these sides. And I'm going to be happy, I think, with that, because I'm going to use this coffee themed paper to cover the mat. I'm going to use my friction pen because, again, it heat erases, and you can iron paper. I'm just going to outline this mat, this pre-cut mat. And then I'm going to go on the inside, and I'm going to try to stay straight down as best I can. Meaning holding the pin as straight as I can. And now I have drawn on here my mat. And somehow I missed that, but that's okay. And then I'm going to pull out my Fiskars cutter. And I want to try to keep my head out of the way. And I'm going to cut this out. And I'm going to come pretty close to down there. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I can save some of this strip. And I'm going to make sure that I get this line, which you can see this little wire on that line. And then I'm going to just make sure that I keep this lined up and cut right on that line. Pull that off. And you can always save this later and use it for, you know, a card or something, because you made your own paper. Now, when I get to the inside, that's going to be a little more tricky. And I'm saying that because I am just not really great at getting this to where it needs to be. I can get the line on here, but this is where I worry, because you can't really see. If you pull it off, you can see the bottom of it, but you can't really see where it is. Excuse me. You can't really see where it is on the inside. So I'm going to stop short of my marks, and then I'm going to use an X-Acto knife to make sure that I get the corners but not go past the corners. Somebody else can maybe do this much better. I just am not great at being able to make sure that I get it and not go over. So that's the way that I'm going to do it. Let's back up like that, and I'm going to keep it right there. And then I'm going to take very carefully this piece. And I don't know if that's going to work because I'm kind of not great here. I don't think that's going to work. I thought maybe it might. I don't know. Let's see if I can come right. Oh, it does, but right up to it. Let's try that and see if that works. If that'll cut it right to the end. Oh, pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to try that here. It might be a trick, but I would move this around to make sure that you keep your line straight and you're doing it right on the line where it needs to be. And then I'm just going to gently move it over, line up my marks. Oh, that moves. Don't let it move. Oh, don't let it move. Don't let it move. Okay. Okay, well that worked pretty slick. Made it an awful lot easier. Now I have my mat frame that I want to use. And it covers it pretty good. If we take a look at the mat, and I still need to iron that. We can use these little lines. You see where the squares are, you can see the little dots. Essentially that's a straight line, and that's what you're going to want to use. So so we're going to put this on here. It's about, I don't know, 3 1/16. I do believe 3 1/16, so 3 inches. And this side is about exactly 3 inches. So it's that, I don't know what I got on there. Rust looks like. So 3 inches and 1/16 and 3 inches. So 3 by 3. And this is supposed to be 4 inches across, which it is. So you know that you want to leave about 1/2 of an inch on all 4 sides, except up here you're going to be a little bit less. So I would probably maybe try to set it in between maybe one of these squares. Well, obviously I can't add, but I can tell that there is two squares pretty much on either side of where I marked. And that's still going to get me into the center. So I'm going to mark that a little bit better. And I'm going to go 2 squares over. I mean, once you cut it, it's cut. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it at that stage of the game, except for do something else with your project if you goof. And, you know, you've watched me long enough. I'm not one of these people that you're watching the videos that these are experts and they're showing you how to do something. I'm sure they've had some trial and error as well. But here's your center, at least going this direction. And let's see where we end up over here. And I'm going to count this way instead. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on this side. That's how many was on that side. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 on this side and 7 on that side. So here is where you end up with that 1 square difference, and where I would have taken 1 out of here, and then I just would have counted 7 on each side, but I can't do that. So now we're back again to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got to count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go halfway up. And I don't know how that's going to go, because it could unravel, but you're going to stick it on your mounting board, which is sticky. Like I just said, you're going to stick it. So it's not really going to matter too much. So I'm just going to eyeball it right there. And I know that this is where I want to cut my fabric. And I'm not going to cut my fabric inside here. I'm going to cut it out here. So I'm just going to draw my line here, and I'm probably going to cut pretty close to that line. And again, I still need to iron that. So I'm going to plug my iron in really quick before I go any further and iron out these marks and iron this out flat. I ironed it, I think, good enough. I'm not too worried about it being perfectly flat because you can stretch it on your mounting board. For me, this is kind of, it didn't get perfectly ironed out. I should have ironed it before I marked it, but I didn't. So here's where it gets nervous for me, but it is what it is. We are going to cut this fabric. My kitty cat is meowing. Alright, so there is my square, and I'm afraid to measure again because I don't want to know if I messed up. So this is about a little under 1.5 inches, and this side is a little under 1.5 inches, so I can live with that. And this is about 1.5 inches, and this side is about 1.5 inches, so I lucked out. Alright, so the mounting board, if I'd have picked that 4x4 frame, then I could have got a 5x7 mounting board, which was less expensive, and it might be potentially much less waste. But if you do little small projects like magnets, which I may do some little magnets in the future to put on the refrigerator, then you can always reuse some of these mounting boards. Could have actually reused those little tiny pieces, and I might actually save this bigger piece, because if I want to make something small, like a magnet or something, or one of those little tiny little pictures, I might save this piece. I think I worked too hard on that fabric to just toss it all. Maybe I'm just, crazy. So 4x4, we just need to measure it out. This board is pretty thick. You're going to have to use a good X-Acto knife to do that. And I'm actually just going to reuse that mat. It's getting its work out for me. And I'm going to draw around it because this is the size that I need to cut the mounting board. Then I'm going to grab my big X-Acto knife, and I'm going to line this ruler up. And you're going to have to cut a few times to get it to go through that board. I'm always afraid of going too deep. I mean, you can ruin your cutting mat. Try cutting it from the back, see if I can. That worked better. So turn it over. Alright, so here is your mounting board, and you're going to be pulling it off of this one side. This is repositional, so if you don't get it perfect the first time, you can always pull it up. And this gives you a chance to stretch it a little bit too. So if you have any of those extra wrinkles in there, you get it out. So there is my piece ready to be framed. I'm going to grab some of my double-sided tape, and I can put a link for this down below too. I always get my double-sided tape off of Amazon. And I could use a bigger piece probably, but this is fine. We'll see if this is enough to get it to stick. All right, so here comes my piece here, and I'm going to, I know it's a little bit off here. You can always trim that later if you need to. Not that big of a deal, and I'm not worried about my marks. I didn't iron those out because it didn't matter. I'm going to pull this close to me for a minute because I got to see it. And I really want the frame to be on there, and so yeah, works better if you can see it. Okay, so that's half my problem because I'm trying to work about a foot away from me, I think, most of the time. Here you can cut this off. You may need to anyway, trying to get it into the frame. Here is your customized mat in a way. You've made the mat to match your project. You know, you could do this for anything. If you have a photograph or if you made a little Christmas project and you can't find, I mean, Christmas paper is really easy to find. I mean, you wouldn't have to make your own. But let's say you were trying to find something, I don't know, that somebody loved that you just couldn't find some good paper. And you didn't want to buy a whole paper pack. You know, Canva is a good option. You can also just import pictures into Word. You could cut pictures out of magazines. You could, if somebody was a reader or a writer, you could use an old book and cut a page out of a large book, and this would all be writing all around, you know, the image. You can do whatever you want. The next step is to stick it in your frame. And we're going to just try to put this in here without the picture just to make sure it sits, and there you go. I think that'll look pretty good. We'll have to see how the back goes on and what I need to do about the back when that comes. All right, so, all right. These acrylic pieces have a piece on the front and the back to keep it no fingerprinty, which, you know, I'm going to probably drop it, and that's going to happen anyway. Almost need a tweezers. My hands, between my hands not working and not really any fingernails. So there's your piece, and I'm not worried about the corners because nothing's going to show in the corners, and that's a little sticky. All right, that's pretty clear, shiny, like clear, shiny acrylic. All right, there's my piece in for my acrylic front. Now I'm going to put my mounting board and my cross-stitch picture. All right, let's see how the back goes on. Let's see if the back fits, if I'm going to be lucky enough to get it in there and make sure I got it right side up. And I do, and I think I can push it down enough to get it to go in. Oh, I lucked out. Look at that. So just push it down and you can slide. You should be able to slide it in pretty easily, or at least good enough. I'm hoping. Got to do with this again here. Only got one in. Maybe I can get one more. You don't need to have all of them in. My fingers are not getting it in there. You might be able to push that in, but I can't get that in with my hands. Might have my husband do it, because if I could get one in, I might be able to get the others in. But anyway, you can always buy something to kind of tack in here to hold this in. You could also tape it if you wanted to. But this way, I think it turned out cute. So there is my cross-stitch project with my Canva design and my Amazon frame. That turned out cute. So you can set this on a shelf. You know, you can set it up like this on a shelf, or you can buy one of those little things to set it on, to lean on. I don't know what they're called. They're like a picture stand. Or you also could hang it up. There's a little mounting piece to hang it up. But there you go. That's how you do it. Thanks for watching. Take care. Stay safe. Be kind.